taking advantage of the warm weather to gather in Manus Park to watch the excavation. Children played on swings pushed by doting parents. Sanders' face had a look of concern. He rushed to call his superiors at Engineering Science in Fairfax, Virginia, which was responsible for developing the air monitoring program. The program was designed to call for the shutdown of the site excavation activities if air toxins reached set trigger levels to abate the release of toxins. The plan also called for the evacuation of area residents in the event of an air emergency. After stopping and restarting excavation several times as levels triggered work stoppage under the air monitoring plan, levels reached the point where the plan called for declaring an air emergency. Sanders wanted his boss to begin evacuation of nearby residents, but that decision was up to their clients, CIPS, Central Illinois Public Service Company, based in Springfield, 30 miles away. The next day, Sanders and the rest of the work crew noticed an ambulance crossing the railroad tracks on Webster Street with lights flashing and sirens wailing. The ambulance made an abrupt stop in front of one of the 4 homes next to the CIPS coal tar site. Paramedics rushed inside and emerged with an elderly woman on a gurney. She was loaded inside the ambulance and transported to Memorial Medical Center in Springfield. Her name was Susan Higginbotham. And her testimony was played to the jury as an example of what was called acute exposure. And she had classic symptoms of acute benzene exposure: headaches, nausea, and then she had a grand mal seizure in the hospital. So let me just jump ahead. Before work began, the Environmental Protection Agency had to approve the cleanup plan. Months earlier, CIPS submitted to the Illinois EPA work plan for removal of the buried tank containing coal tar. On October 10, 1986, a meeting was held at the EPA State Office in Springfield to discuss the work plan. Mark Cochran from CIPS appeared before the review team with its engineer and project manager George Jameson from Hanson Engineers, based in Springfield, the state capital. A young toxicologist, Sharon LaFalla, with the IEPA Office of Chemical Safety, was part of the review team. She was concerned about protecting residents in the community from exposure to toxic emissions that would be stirred up with backhoes and bulldozers churning up soil contaminated by coal tar. LaFalla asked if air dispersion modeling was being conducted to evaluate the safety of the work plan. And then I explained what air dispersion modeling is. So basically, they take samples of the contamination, they put in a jar, and they measure the headspace of the volatiles that are emitted. And then based on that, they do a calculation on a larger scale. What would happen if you excavate a large area like this gas holder, the tank that contained coal tar. And then and of course in the lawsuit, we then took the deposition of the person that did the more detailed modeling, that had more sophisticated modeling programs. It's basically a computer model. And so Tom Lonergan deposed a person named Douglas Toothman. And Lonergan asked, did your modeling take into account at all the breaking into the ground, the underground holder, and its contents? And he says, my recommendation, again looking at this recently, is that we indicated that remediating the holder would require emission controls, said Toothman. And he started kind of dodging the question. And so he discusses what, the headspace and the modeling and that. And then this is a question by Tom Lonergan. And those adverse effects that could be calculated in terms of increased cancer rates in that community? Yes, said Toothman. And you made clear to your clients, did you not, in this case? Well, it was included in our document, replied Toothman. And you assumed that they would read it? Yes. You assumed that they would follow these directions? Yes. Do you know what, in fact, happened at this site? No, I do not. And so the more detailed modeling corroborated the predictions that Larry Cornett had made, that just going in simply with backhoes and bulldozers could have significant impacts to the community and could result in an increase of cancer in the community. Upsetting to learn, that this is still going on in other states, even though Illinois learned the painful lesson that this community had to go through to, finally take a more protective standard of care. But other communities that, that are unaware of what happened to this community for allowing utilities like Duke Energy to do the exact same thing that CIPS did here. And so that's why it's really so important to get your stories out there. And I hope I've done justice by writing this book.
We don't even give our dogs our well water out of the faucet. We give them bottled water. Every dog that we've had, unless they've been hit by a car, or even my in-laws' dogs, they live a quarter mile down the lane. They've all had cancer. They've all had tumors. We don't drink our water. We buy bottled. If I'm boiling it and draining it, I will use it. Otherwise, I don't.
Yeah. And, I'm charged to investigate a culprit high on my list, coal tar. I called Brenda May and briefed her on what was happening in Franklin, Indiana. Quote, "Here we go again," she said. John Doc Davidson died of old age on August 21st, 2012. He was 87. And if you remember, I was running against John Doc Davidson in the Senate in 1990. And of course, he was in lockstep with CIPS and the Illinois Department of Public Health, saying that science doesn't know what causes neuroblastoma, and there was no exposure to this community that could have harmed anyone. 5 years after Doc died, his former secretary called me. Quote, "Doc Davidson told me if you need a good investigator, call Bill Clutter," she said. Doc knew the truth. CIPS had afflicted those children with cancer. And that's the end of the book.